The discovery of water on the Moon is, in fact, a real and fascinating scientific milestone, confirmed by several modern missions that detected water molecules trapped inside mineral grains and ice deposits in permanently shadowed craters. However, it is important to separate proven geological discoveries from theories involving artificial structures. But before we continue, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Although images captured by orbital probes occasionally reveal shapes that appear geometric or linear, such as the famous monolith or towers, the scientific community explains that these formations are the result of natural processes. The psychological phenomenon known as pareidolia causes the human brain to interpret familiar patterns, such as right angles or faces, within random objects. Geologically, the Moon contains rocks ejected by impacts and structural fractures that, under low-angle sunlight, can cast long and perfectly rectangular shadows, creating the illusion of monumental structures. The alleged strange photos from the Apollo missions and probes from the 1960s have, for the most part, been explained as camera lens reflections, dust particles on the film, or image processing artifacts from that era. As for NASA's supposed silence, the agency operates under scientific transparency protocols. The discovery of a 5-mile-long alien structure would be impossible to conceal for decades, especially considering that amateur astronomers and space agencies from other countries, such as China, India, and Japan, constantly map the lunar surface using extremely high-resolution technology. The Moon's true, incredible structure is its geological history. What appear to be constructions are actually evidence of a violent past, shaped by meteorite bombardments and ancient volcanism that formed craters and mountains in astonishing ways. The Moon's real mystery lies in its composition and the origin of the water at its poles, elements that current missions are finally beginning to decode using concrete and verifiable data. The dimensions and origin of the so-called lunar monolith remain subjects of intense debate, dividing opinions between geological explanations and theories involving extraterrestrial artifacts. While scientists argue that natural processes, such as cooling lava or rare fault formations, can create geometric shapes, the appearance of the structure fuels suspicions that it may be artificial. This mystery is amplified by alleged gaps in photographic records from missions such as Lunar Orbiter 5, which some interpret as a deliberate attempt to conceal areas of interest. This narrative of secrecy supports the idea that NASA could be protecting the public from evidence of non-human intelligence in order to avoid widespread panic. Despite the skepticism of the mainstream scientific community, which attributes these anomalies to natural phenomena and optical illusions, fascination with the monolith persists. With the use of modern imaging technologies, the structure continues to be investigated in an attempt to determine whether it is merely a unique geological curiosity or evidence of an ancient external presence on the Moon. When we observe these alleged structures on the Moon, what stands out is not only their gigantic size, but also their perfect geometric patterns. Nature usually creates random forms, yet the supposed 5-mile-wide monolith appears to display right angles and perfectly aligned lines that seem deliberately designed. Richard Hoagland, a former NASA consultant and controversial researcher, spent decades studying alleged lunar anomalies. According to him, contrast and lighting adjustments applied to NASA's own images would reveal geometric structures impossible to explain solely through natural processes. Although craters and irregular rock formations are common on the Moon, some images appear to show blocks and angular shapes with straight lines and nearly perfect angles, something rare in natural terrain. These formations gained attention after enhanced photographs revealed a massive rectangular-looking monolith, sharply contrasting with the rounded rocks surrounding it. For enthusiasts, this would be evidence of an artificial origin. Skeptics, however, argue that lighting conditions, low resolution, and visual distortions can create geometric illusions that disappear under more precise analysis. Natural explanations include unusual volcanic fractures and rare geological processes, but there is still no definitive consensus regarding these formations. Another intriguing structure, nicknamed the Blade, appeared in images from 1967, seemingly rising miles above the lunar surface, something considered incompatible with the moon's known geology. Independent researchers claim the observed shadows follow patterns similar to artificial constructions, while traditional scientists attribute everything to lighting effects, shadows, and the specific angles of the earliest lunar photographs. The Apollo program missions remain one of the greatest milestones in space exploration. Yet some researchers believe they also gave rise to theories about a possible cover-up involving discoveries made by NASA on the moon. Several Apollo astronauts made enigmatic statements over the years, fueling speculation about what they may have seen on the lunar surface. Buzz Aldrin once commented on a very unusual structure while discussing the monolith on Phobos, one of Mars's moons, leading some people to believe he was indirectly referring to similar structures found on our own moon. Other astronauts mentioned the feeling of being watched or sensing some kind of presence during the lunar missions, although they usually attributed those sensations to the extreme psychological impact of being in such an alien environment. The Apollo missions transformed the moon from a distant curiosity into a deeply studied world, revealing a landscape shaped by ancient volcanic activity and billions of years of impacts. Across 6 landings between 1969 and 1972, astronauts brought back nearly 900 pounds of lunar rocks and soil, revealing a crust dominated by highlands composed mainly of light-colored anorthosite, formed more than 4,400,000,000 years ago, as well as dark basalt plains solidified by ancient lava flows around 3,300,000,000 years ago. Seismometers left on the surface detected moonquakes and helped map an internal structure composed of a small metallic core, surrounded by a rigid and thick mantle. Heat flow experiments showed that the lunar crust functions as a far more efficient insulator than Earth's crust, preserving extremely ancient thermal records. The fine dust covering the surface proved to be more abrasive than expected, causing difficulties for both equipment and astronauts' suits. Instruments also identified helium-3 carried by solar winds and trapped within glassy particles in the lunar soil, suggesting potential for future energy applications. Laser pulses reflected by reflectors left on the moon continue refining our understanding of lunar orbit and rotation. Later chemical analyses also identified traces of water trapped inside volcanic materials, overturning the old belief that the moon was completely dry. Together, these discoveries established the moon as a true archive of the solar system's evolution and paved the way for future exploration. Apollo mission transcripts contain several edited conversations between astronauts and mission control, and some researchers believe these removals may have hidden discussions about artificial structures observed during lunar orbits or surface explorations. All astronauts were military personnel, subject to strict confidentiality agreements that could have prevented them from publicly revealing classified discoveries. Some theorists point to unusual behavior displayed by certain astronauts after returning to Earth. Some became more isolated, others immersed themselves in spiritual subjects, while a few appeared to carry enormous psychological burdens. Could these reactions be related to what they witnessed on the lunar surface? NASA attributes any strange behavior or unusual communication to the immense stress of space travel and the natural psychological impact of such an extreme experience. Even so, questions remain about what may have been deliberately removed from public records. The Soviet lunar program advanced alongside American efforts during the Cold War, with both superpowers competing to see who would first uncover the moon's secrets. Despite the intense rivalry, some researchers suggest that both nations may have reached a silent agreement to keep certain lunar discoveries away from public knowledge. The Luna 9 mission, which achieved the first successful soft landing on the moon in 1966, transmitted strange images that seemed to show enormous crystalline structures reflecting sunlight. These images were intercepted by the Jodrell Bank Observatory in England before the Soviets could supposedly alter them, causing major controversy within the scientific community at the time. The Soviet lunar program, active from 1959 to 1976, achieved a series of groundbreaking milestones that completely transformed lunar science. Luna 1 demonstrated the capability for deep space navigation. A few months later, Luna 2 became the first spacecraft to impact the Moon, confirming that it had no atmosphere. Luna 3 returned the first photographs of the far side of the Moon, revealing regions never before seen by the human eye. Soon afterward, Luna 9 successfully soft-landed on the lunar surface in 1966 and transmitted panoramic images, while Luna 10 entered lunar orbit, mapping gravitational irregularities, known as mascons, and measuring radiation levels surrounding the satellite. Robotic explorers and landers carried spectrometers to analyze soil composition, seismic sensors to record moonquakes, and solar wind collectors that captured the first extraterrestrial particles ever obtained. Between 1970 and 1976, the Luna 16, 20, and 24 missions carried out robotic sample return operations, bringing back lunar regolith that significantly expanded our understanding of the Moon's crustal evolution. The rigorous data collection from these missions provided essential information for all future lunar exploration. Although many details were kept secret during the Cold War, the later release of records and images eventually encouraged international collaboration, paving the way for joint projects such as the Apollo-Soyuz test project. Today, as the Luna 25 mission seeks to revive Russian lunar exploration, Soviet discoveries remain proof of the engineering capabilities of that era and the historical value of scientific research. Several Soviet probes suffered mysterious failures while approaching certain regions of the Moon, reflecting technical difficulties similar to those faced by American spacecraft. Luna 15 crashed while attempting to land in Mare Crisium in 1969, an area that some researchers claim contains evidence of artificial structures. What makes the relationship between the Soviet and American space programs particularly intriguing is the way competition seemed to suddenly transform into cooperation whenever certain aspects of lunar exploration came into question. By the mid-1970s, the space race had cooled considerably, with both nations drastically reducing their lunar ambitions despite still possessing the technology to continue advancing. Some conspiracy theorists suggest this mutual withdrawal was not a coincidence, but the result of a joint discovery. Something found on the lunar surface that both superpowers agreed to keep hidden from the world's population. While mainstream historians attribute this shift to political priorities and budget restrictions, questions still remain about whether Americans and Soviets discovered something on the Moon that profoundly altered their space exploration strategies. The technology attributed to the alleged lunar monolith appears to challenge everything we know. If a structure approximately 5 miles wide truly exists on the Moon, one unavoidable question emerges: who or what would be capable of building it? Constructing something on that scale would already be extraordinarily difficult on Earth. But within the lunar environment, without an atmosphere and exposed to intense radiation, micrometeorites, and extreme temperature fluctuations, the challenge would seem even more impossible. Some researchers claim the engineering required to create such a structure would exceed current human capabilities. The monolith would need to survive for millions of years without suffering significant degradation, enduring constant impacts and severe thermal changes. According to controversial analyses, high-resolution images allegedly reveal nearly perfect right angles and surfaces, far too smooth to be explained solely by natural erosion. Spectroscopic data also supposedly identified unusual signatures resembling metallic alloys rich in rare elements, different from the rocks normally found on the Moon. Other surveys reportedly point to possible internal cavities organized in geometric patterns, as well as small gravitational anomalies surrounding the structure. For some engineers and independent researchers, This fuels hypotheses involving advanced materials, perhaps capable of collecting solar energy or interacting with electromagnetic fields. The composition attributed to the monolith would combine metallic properties with thermal resistance comparable to advanced ceramics, something difficult to fit into known classifications. To this day, however, no direct sample has confirmed these claims, and most of the scientific community considers such interpretations speculative. Even so, the alleged monolith continues fueling debates about possible unknown technologies and the limits of our understanding of the Moon. Future missions equipped with drilling robots and spectroscopic instruments may finally determine whether these formations are merely unusual geological illusions or something far more astonishing. According to reports, it would be located in an area that receives constant sunlight throughout the lunar day, an ideal condition for solar energy collection. This strategic positioning has led some theorists to suggest the structure could function as an energy harvesting device or some kind of energy beacon. More conservative scientists challenge these claims, emphasizing that without real material samples, it is impossible to determine the composition of such structures, and that unusual mineral concentrations may explain strange reflectivity patterns in lunar photographs. Even so, the debate continues over whether natural processes could truly create a structure so geometrically perfect, especially on such a gigantic scale. If it is not natural, then who built it? Some point to an ancient advanced civilization from Earth, while others suggest a non-human intelligence that may have visited the solar system long before humanity evolved. The lunar surface is marked by billions of years of meteor impacts. Yet some craters near the alleged monolith site display characteristics considered unusual. Certain formations possess extremely flat floors, internal geometric patterns, and elevated walls with surprisingly precise angles, something many researchers find difficult to explain solely through natural collisions. Another mystery involves the so-called transient lunar phenomena, or TLPs, recorded by astronomers since the 18th century. These events appear as flashes, hazes, or temporary luminous changes in specific regions of the Moon, including areas near craters associated with the alleged monolith. In addition, some craters display rare geological anomalies, such as displaced central cavities, concentric rings resembling volcanic structures, and asymmetrical ejecta patterns. Radar data also indicate underground layers suggesting ancient lava flows following impacts. Thermal imaging has detected hot spots within fractures inside these craters, raising hypotheses about residual heat or gas releases beneath the surface. Spectroscopic studies have also identified unusual minerals, such as olivine-rich deposits, normally associated with deep regions of the lunar interior. Some craters feature deformed and fractured rims, indicating possible ancient tectonic stresses. In high-latitude areas, researchers have also discovered partially sunken ghost craters, suggesting contraction and subsidence processes that may have reshaped parts of the Moon over time. These anomalies reinforce the idea that lunar history may have been far more geologically active than previously imagined. Missions such as the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter continue analyzing these regions in detail, seeking to determine whether these formations are merely rare natural phenomena or signs of still unknown processes beneath the lunar surface. These luminous anomalies, known as TLPs, sometimes appear on the Moon as intense flashes or glowing mists that last for minutes or even hours before disappearing. NASA explains these phenomena as the result of gas releases, meteor impacts, or electrostatic discharges. Even so, some researchers believe they may indicate some type of activity occurring beneath the lunar surface. One of the best-known cases occurred in 1958 when Soviet astronomer Nikolai Kozyrev reported observing a reddish glow accompanied by a kind of mist on the Moon. The incident attracted attention because the Moon has long been considered geologically inactive for billions of years, leading some researchers to speculate about possible artificial activity hidden within underground structures. The theories gained even more momentum when the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter identified tunnels and caves beneath the lunar surface, Wenenomaseki gazenoids, locations that could theoretically conceal enormous structures beyond the reach of direct observation. For supporters of these hypotheses, another question naturally emerges. Could these underground networks have some connection to the alleged lunar monolith? From that point, the cover-up theory begins to take shape. If space agencies have truly known for decades about evidence of artificial structures on the moon, why keep it secret? Some researchers claim that confirming extraterrestrial intelligence and technologies far beyond human capabilities could cause profound impacts on religious institutions, economic systems, and the global geopolitical balance. These theorists also point to partially censored records, delayed image releases, and official silence surrounding certain lunar photographs as signs that there may have been an effort to reduce public interest in the subject. According to this perspective, controlling information about space exploration would help preserve political, military, and scientific advantages. Another frequently raised point involves technology. If an artificial structure truly exists on the moon and contains advanced knowledge, understanding how it functions could offer an enormous strategic advantage. Because of this, some believe any discovery of that kind would be kept under extreme secrecy until it could be fully understood or reproduced. This could explain why information about the structure may have been compartmentalized under strict security protocols, with only a small group of authorities and scientists having complete access to the data. Former NASA employees have occasionally surfaced with claims involving classified lunar photographs and altered mission data, although most remain anonymous out of fear of violating confidentiality agreements. Some described elaborate photo retouching systems allegedly used to remove unusual objects from lunar images before they were released to the public or scientific journals. Critics of these conspiracy theories highlight the practical difficulty of maintaining a secret of that magnitude for so many decades, especially involving international space agencies with differing political interests. They argue that in today's world, with satellite technology and private space companies, any gigantic structure on the moon would already have been independently confirmed, recent evidence, and what modern technology reveals. Although the original claims surrounding a lunar monolith emerged during the 1960s and 70s, modern lunar reconnaissance technology is infinitely more advanced, raising an unavoidable question: what do today's cameras actually show? The Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, commonly known as the LRO, launched in 2009, mapped the lunar surface with an unprecedented level of detail, capturing images with enough resolution to visualize Apollo landing sites and equipment left behind on the moon. Some researchers claim that certain areas considered highly significant continue to appear curiously blurred or obscured in public LRO images, especially regions where anomalous structures had previously been reported. What is most interesting is the way modern analytical techniques are now being applied to old NASA photographs. Using digital enhancement methods that did not exist decades ago, independent researchers re-examined original lunar mission film footage, claiming to discover evidence of enormous structures that were previously difficult to distinguish. These enhanced images appear to reveal regular geometric patterns and straight lines that stand out sharply against the moon's natural landscape. China's Chang'e lunar missions have also provided new data about the moon, with Chang'e 4 making history by landing on the far side in 2019. Although official Chinese reports do not confirm artificial structures, some researchers claim to have identified anomalies in the mission's photographs that align with older theories about lunar architecture. As private companies such as SpaceX and Blue Origin develop their own lunar missions, some people wonder whether these less restricted organizations may eventually confirm or definitively debunk the monolith theory. As ultra-high-definition cameras become smaller and more powerful, and as more countries gain lunar exploration capabilities, maintaining any possible cover-up will become increasingly difficult over the next decade. The connection to Mars, a mystery of the solar system. The moon is not the only place where mysterious structures have been reported. Similar anomalies have also been photographed on Mars, and especially on Phobos, the Martian moon, suggesting a possible connection between these objects. The most famous case is the face on Mars in the Cydonia region, photographed by the Viking Bane T1 in 1976, along with the Phobos monolith, an enormous vertical rock or structure casting a distinct shadow across the surface of Mars' largest moon. What makes these discoveries particularly intriguing is the way they appear to share certain characteristics with the alleged lunar monolith, including specific geometric properties and strategic positioning that some researchers claim do not occur naturally. Former astronaut Buzz Aldrin once commented on the Phobos monolith, describing it as a very unusual structure and suggesting that it deserved further investigation. That statement, coming from someone who actually walked on the moon, generated even more suspicion among those who believe NASA is hiding information. Some researchers propose that these different monoliths and structures may be related, perhaps as markers or technologies left behind by the same advanced civilization while exploring the solar system. The positioning of these structures has also become a subject of interest. Many appear to be located at mathematically significant points relative to other formations on their respective celestial bodies, suggesting intentional placement rather than random geological processes. While NASA scientists explain the anomalies on Mars and Phobos as simple, unusual rock formations created by natural erosion and pareidolia, our tendency to see familiar patterns in random shapes, the similarities between these structures continue fueling speculation about possible artificial origins. The future of lunar exploration. Will the truth be revealed? We are entering a new era of lunar exploration, with multiple countries and private companies planning missions to the moon throughout the next decade. The current lunar race, led by the Artemis program from NASA and the Chang'e program from China, together with the rise of private companies such as SpaceX, marks an era of unprecedented transparency. Through the use of ultra-high-definition cameras, ground-penetrating radar, and multispectral sensors, the lunar surface is being mapped with a level of detail that makes it virtually impossible to conceal any large-scale physical anomaly. The democratization of access to space changes the entire dynamic of information control. While government agencies were often the target of conspiracy theories involving secrecy in the past, the presence of multiple global actors and private shareholders makes the suppression of scientific data increasingly unlikely. Researchers and enthusiasts argue that if the alleged monolith is a real artifact, its confirmation would become the most impactful event in human history. However, mainstream science anticipates that these investigations will simply provide more precise geological explanations for formations that currently appear mysterious. Whether it leads to the revelation of an external presence or the definitive debunking of optical illusions, technological progress promises to end decades of speculation. What were once blurry shadows and photographs from the 1960s will soon become concrete data, expanding our understanding of the moon and humanity's place in the cosmos. Thank you for watching another episode. And while you're still here, don't forget to click on the video appearing on your screen to watch more high-quality content.